Jamaica's Blue Mountain coffee is a premium product. Its premium nature rests on its branding, and its branding is highly linked to the physical geography. As stated by the Blue Mountain Coffee Group, to be called Jamaica Blue Mountain Coffee, it must be grown at altitudes of up to 1,800 meters within the parishes of Portland, St. Andrew, St. Mary, and St. Thomas. BlueMountainCoffee.com says the volcanic soil combined with the microclimate conditions of the region impart a unique flavor profile to the beans, known for its mildness, smoothness, and chocolate flavor. Now, in addition to altitude and the location, other features of this microclimate include cooler temperatures relative to lower altitudes, as well as higher rainfall numbers, again relative to lower altitudes. Now, with such high dependence on the microclimate towards producing the premium quality product of Blue Mountain coffee, this gives reason towards us as a whole expressing better climate change mitigation practices towards, as best as is possible, preserving the high quality of this product. I have colleagues who have been doing significant research within the Blue Mountains and have been pushing out their findings to indicate that climate change is a major threat towards the sustainability of the Blue Mountain coffee as a whole. Hurricane Beryl in 2024 is the most recent highlight of a climate change shock and how extensively damaging it is towards this region or towards this overall industry. Even from my personal work, field work, primarily, which would have been geological mapping of the particular regions of Portland, specific to the 2023 earthquake, magnitude 5 plus. The damage that I would have seen to the road network, to the overall farming landscape for the Blue Mountain coffee areas would have been extensive. And to see that there is this expression of the climate shock and its effects on the maturation of the Blue Mountain coffee and the capacity for the farmers themselves to reap during the times necessary for reaping, as well as to get their product to the relevant partners so that they can get to the locations that is necessary for it to be packaged and eventually exported. All of those would have been scenes that I came across personally, and basically can also express solidly that definitely climate change is a major threat towards Jamaica's Blue Mountain coffee. As stated in the media, the primary importers of Jamaica's Blue Mountain coffee include Japan as the biggest market, followed by USA, Europe. Now, interestingly, whilst the history of Jamaica's Blue Mountain coffee rests on primarily us exporting the variety Arabica or Arabica plant, which has its history from the origins of Jamaica's Blue Mountains itself. If we're going to be able to compete in terms of this climate shift, then we would have to consider having more so climate resilient varieties. This may mean that it's going to take a bit longer of a time for us as a whole towards ensuring that as best as is possible, we can produce similar flavor profile relative to the Arabica plant. I expect or anticipate that this is basically the work that the relevant authorities and overall the industry is putting in. But notwithstanding that, this highlights how really challenging climate change really is towards not just the farming practice as a whole, but even the flavor profile. Therefore, it is unlikely we'll be able to maintain or attain high production levels within the short term. We will have to take the time necessary to learn and then to reestablish that degree of trust in the market. So it can or should be expected that revenues will dip. And in essence, it means then now that from the level of the farmers and their families overall, their capacity to sustain their livelihoods will more than likely be affected. So then we should anticipate that these said farmers can move away from coffee farming into other kinds of farming, which in extension can hurt the overall industry of Jamaica's coffee farming as a whole. I will also mention this point that whilst we are focusing on developing climate resilient actions towards preserving and improving our capacity to withstand the climate shocks and stressors, we should not take our eye off the geology overall and the fragility of the landscape to geoforces such as earthquakes, the steep sided slopes, which are predominantly the regions where coffee is actually farmed. These regions are susceptible to land slippage. The volcanic landscapes itself make it highly prone not just to landslides on a whole, but basically towards it being a case that we have high degree of erosion during high states of rainfall. The Blue Mountains overall is within the region of Jamaica that experiences the highest number of uh, earthquakes, earthquakes within light to moderate and even above intensity and magnitude. So, in that being said, it means that bedrock, it means that the soils overall are highly susceptible towards being, as stated a while ago, eroded and towards having slippage through landslides or mass movement or having soil creep. All of these conditions, physical conditions, are things that we should still make sure that we are putting measures in place and including as a whole in terms of the overall mitigation framework towards ensuring that we may have long-standing resilience.